In 2010, Lamborghini made a car called the Sesto Elemento. Not a very attractive car by most standards. Most men found it good looking, but I'm not saying if you're a woman you needed a gun pointed at you to say it looked attractive, but if there's one thing I've learned in all my dating life is that it certainly helped. This car is one of those cars that it's like a modern version of that. It's like they took, like on the Sesto, they took a Gallardo and made that out of it. Now they took the Huracan and made this out of it.
Yeah, Centro Stile, that they had a lot to do with that Sesto Elemento, and that car is just phenomenal, and it definitely is a track-focused car. It's not even road legal. So this is the
way more civilized,
yeah,
which is what I love about this. Absolutely.
Yeah, to me, this is the SVJ Huracan, is what this is to me. And STO, for those of you that don't know, is the Super Trofeo Omologato. So it's basically the homologated version that's approved for the roads of the race car, and you can definitely see race car in this.
This car is a minute faster around the Nürburgring than a Veyron. And I was talking to a guy at the bar about this car last night, and he said, so? And I says, if you know this car exists and you still want a Veyron, you shouldn't be walking around without a helmet. Well, I'm not sure if you've been knocked unconscious before, but I'm sure that's how my night ended. But it still doesn't change the fact that this car is 1/6 the price, and it's just as fast or faster.
Yeah, it's totally a better performance. And while we're talking about price, starting price is $327,000, but I don't think I've seen one under $4. In fact, I was telling Patrick earlier, the one that I did see on eBay, $499,000 for that thing. So I mean, that's a lot of territory. You're in different territories for that price to me.
Yeah, and you are, because I mean, when this thing is introduced, if you're lucky enough to get your hands on one, and from what I understand, you order one, they'll build one.
Yeah, and that's what I thought was neat. This is not a limited run. If you go to the Lamborghini and you order a Huracan, they'll give you the STO option to be able to purchase, to have it on there, which I think is neat, because to me that shows collector's items, just like the Copo and Yenko Camaros, where that was factory stuff that they were putting on, and those were unique and for the users. That's what this is going to be to me.
If you get enough of them out there that people know about them, and that's the thing with collector cars, is there's a lot of really limited run cars like that 3-seater Ferrari that people never knew about. So it really doesn't become a collector car amongst you and I, because we didn't even know existed. So I didn't really care. But if there's enough of these out in the big old world that when you see one, you'll go, oh my God, there's one, it's available, I really want it. I remember those from when I was growing up. So congratulations, Lamborghini. It's a really good move sometimes to build a lot of something, to at least get the population out there to know that it exists, so that we know that we want one. And I tell you what, I do want one, and I will drink that.
You whiskey girl.
You may want to drive this thing before you buy this thing, because they're saying that the bushings are stiffer and the roll bars are stiffer on this car. And I don't know if you've ever ridden in an ACR Viper before, but that car is so abusive to your body, it should come with a safe word. I mean, this car, you might want to drive it, because this car, they're saying it's going to be stiffer. Now, they were also talking about some other changes that they made that might make it a little more compliant, but it's like they did with the Countach. They sold that thing out before anybody had even driven it. It might just be an awful car to live with on a day-to-day basis, like the Pagani Zonda. You know, everybody says, well, even Lewis Hamilton got rid of his. I know, we love the Zonda, but and I would live with it. You know,
I would live in it.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Lewis Hamilton even stated that he says the car is an awful car to live with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it's an exotic, and I mean, if you look at this thing, it's not a daily driver car, even though I would daily drive it, just like the SVJ. But to me, that's what this is. This is the SVJ Huracan, is basically what this is. It's a track focused. There's no floor mats in it. All carbon fiber. Did you see the trunk in this thing?
There's a trunk?
Oh, yeah. There's a trunk underneath the front, or I guess you could say frunk, and it's big enough for your helmet.
Well, there's also a version of this Huracan as well that you can buy that they use in Italy, etc. And that frunk area has a refrigerator in it for hauling organs. They quickly transport them via these Huracans in a refrigerator that's built into the vehicle. The police can buy these cars with a refrigerator in it for transporting organs.
So I would put other things in that refrigerator than organs, but it's good to know.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if I need a liver, I'm going to get one really fast. Thanks, Lamborghini.
Yeah, go to Italy.
Don't expect this thing to impress you coming out of the corners, because honestly,
really?
the turbo cars, you know, like the McLarens and things like that, they've got so much more torque on you. But at the same time, this engine starts making power around 6,000 where it's really ripping. As long as you can keep the RPMs up on it and you know how to properly drive this car, you can be really fast in it. But if you don't drive it like a race car driver, you're going to look like a fool behind the wheel of this thing.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, this car just looks, the looks alone would sell me on it. But you have to understand, too, that this is starting out at $327,000, but I don't think I've seen one so far that's under $400 as far as all the options that you can get on it. And you got to understand what territory you're in. Spend $400,000, if not more.
But, you know, I mean, this thing's got I think it's Akrapovic makes the titanium roll cage for it.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I knew Akrapovic when I was a kid for exhausts and everything, but now that they're doing titanium roll cages, let's do it.
And guess what? It's got a roof scoop.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got
roof
Tony's
scoop and a shark fin.
And it, sure, exactly, and that's what they're saying online. A lot of people are saying online that, oh, you know, why don't you just buy a race car? And I know haters are going to hate, and just like all those Amber Alerts that come on, I know, I just ignore them and they'll go away. The thing that I want to do, that I would want to do with this car more than anything, is I would want to take it on the track, but I have a concern with this car. In America, we're really limited in the classes that we race at, the technology that you can put in these cars in the SCCA type racing. So you really have to use a manual brake, and you can't use, you know, carbon brakes in classes. Everything's still steel brakes. This car has so much technology in the brake system that it doesn't, they took away your brake feel. The system that's in it is designed to always give you a firm pedal.
Like a brake
so
by wire.
how am I going to know exactly, how am I going to know when the system is breaking down?
Ah, well, I got an answer to that.
Okay.
So you can get the CCR brakes in here, which are those crazy expensive brakes that take like 6 months to cure from Brembo, but they actually have gauges in the gauge cluster. Couldn't find that word, and it shows you the temperature of not only the brakes themselves but also the brake fluid. So,
I still want a feel, and that's the thing.
You can feel the carbon fiber while you're driving.
Yeah, I can't feel a gauge going low, but I can feel it on the brakes. I got stuff to do, you know what I mean? And I when I'm racing, I'll look around at some of the gauges. You know, I'll watch my predictive lap timer and things like that. But I'm not staring at all of these different gauges because I don't have time.
Really?
And
even if you're racing your $400,000 Lamborghini on the track?
I know. And imagine you'd want to bring that into a central position, because that is brakes, and if there's one thing that we've learned is brakes are very important in a race car.
Yeah, a little bit.
Do you hear an alarm going off? We've all been there. We got our car half torn apart, and the wife says, hey, it's date night. You got to stop doing what you're doing and get in the car, and we got to get going. And I didn't know that Kanye knew how to change the transmission in my G-body, but congratulations, Kanye. And that's the thing about people. People don't know as much about cars as they used to. I was in the girly club the other day, and I was having a conversation with a guy about this very car. And about 2 minutes into this conversation, I realized this guy knew nothing about what I was talking about. And I thought to myself, you know, if I want to get mindless conversation, I'll go grab a girl in a lap dance. There's a lot going on with this car. If you don't know this car, you're going to look at it and think it's a spoiler kit, but it's not.
No, definitely.
The thing that I was really impressed with is the fact that they don't allow the system to interfere with your throttle control. I'm so glad that that's gone, because now that system, if you move the throttle to wide open throttle, the throttle blade goes to wide open throttle. It doesn't subsidize your movement. And I know you're going to pick up some shudder from doing that, because that's part of the nature of having your actual control of the throttle. But I am so annoyed by interference, and I've talked to you about this before with my 458. Even when I shut things off, it's still interfering.
Still hesitate,
yeah, and the same thing with the wife's G-Wagon. You know, you slam the thing down to take off, and then instead of doing a real cool tire spin, it closes the throttle back down and keeps it from spinning the tire and rolls back into the throttle. I find that so annoying.
Yeah, it is annoying, because I even noticed it on my STI. You take the RPMs a little too high, you can feel it throttling back itself. But the neat thing about this too that I heard is that the traction system that's in it, obviously they has torque vectoring and a lot of other cool features. The gentlemen have been driving it have been saying that if you start noticing that you're going into a slide, don't try to correct it. keep pushing it and the car actually brings itself back. If you try to correct it, it's going to confuse the system and throw you off, which I thought was pretty neat, that it's not only a track car, but it has these track functionalities to it that you can actually use it and drive it.
The all-wheel drive in the Performante was definitely an advantage to this car in 0 to 60 time. I mean, it's insane 0 to 60 that the Performante had. But honestly, this car at 2.6 seconds is crazy, crazy fast.
Oh, because I heard it was only 3 seconds, 0 to 60.
Well, they've seen the tests that they've done. They're showing 3 seconds, but people have hit 2.6, and it really comes down to the prepped surface that you're on.
Or the tires. There's two different tires on this one too.
Yeah, I understood that.
Bridgestone is the first time that they've actually used Bridgestone on these Lamborghinis, and they can also, obviously you can get the cup tires on it instead. But they said the Bridgestone ones were designed specifically for this.
But I do like the fact that they did readjust the downforce on the car for the application, because now that they're converting it into a real road course car, it needs real road course downforce. And it's 925 pounds is what they're denoting this as being, which is a decent number.
It's not the Lara numbers, but it's up there.
Yeah, it's up there. That's a really decent number. I still think that at this power level, they could put a few hundred more pounds on this car and not hurt it very bad.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's all the things that are on it. I mean, from the NACA ducts above the rear wheel wells to help cool the engine off, and that, you know, obviously the front too has the louvers in it to vent the pressure that's building up in the wheel wells too. I
think that the one thing that they did miss on this car is I still think it should have had that active aero. Because I know they probably didn't do it because they wanted to homologate the car, but it's really hurting it in advantage because the mile per hour took a big hit. So they were talking about this having a really good potential for the Nürburgring, but the Nürburgring's a mile per hour track.
Yeah.
And if they lose too much, they'll gain a lot in the corner with the downforce, but if they lose too much on the straightaways, it's not going to be able to beat the Performante, which...
And the Performante has a big number on the Nordschleife as well. It holds a record there. And they were saying, Lamborghini was saying that they're not going for that record. But I think this could take it.
Then they accurately built and designed the car. But it's fast, 10.4 second quarter mile. Man, that's really flying.
Really flying.
I grew up in an era where if something could run in the 13s, it was so quick. And then,
I remember that. Yeah.
And then now cars, and then when the first time that I saw a factory car run the 10s, I was at Orlando Speedway.
McLaren?
And a guy rolled up in a McLaren.
12C?
Absolutely, yeah. And I said, oh God, watch this thing run, like 1140 or something. And I thought, that's pretty decent. And the thing rolled into the 10s. And I'm like, wow, that's a game changer. Yep. Absolutely. So, all right, it's time. I hear a squealing noise. If you take a look at the new Countach, for example, really stunning, beautiful car, you can drive it, or your wife or girlfriend or side piece can drive it. They can, absolutely. Like I said, hope they never meet. But this car is a boy's car.
Yeah, and I mean, I see that to an extent because especially the launch colors are very boy racer looking, but I have seen some very elegant examples of this that have been like a matte finish, matte bronze with black wheels, or all white with black wheels that are very subdued, and it brings it down to where
you might be right.
It could go either way.
Yeah, you might be right. If you did mute this down, because it's got a lot of crazy colors on the ones that they're showing for the launch versions. If you did mute it down, you're right, it might open up a whole new audience just once you get all those crazy colors off there. Because you know me, I have a Grigio Medio Ferrari. It's subdued color. It's something that I find attractive. And I think that something like that would work on this car in a muted, like a semi-gloss black
satin
of sorts.
Yeah,
satin. Yeah. Exactly. I think that, and it would help that car look much better. But I'm still not going to give it a real high styling rating because overall, I just don't find it as attractive as my favorite car from Lamborghini, the SVJ. I know, I love the SVJ, I just don't. It's too small for me.
SVJ.
It's too. I know, and I don't like the whole concept of the baby stuff. So I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna ding it pretty hard because I don't like these smaller boy racer cars. They're not my cup of tea. A lot of people love them. I don't, so I gave it a 60.
Ouch, Lamborghini. So for me, I'm completely the opposite direction. I think this is the baby SVJ. The styling on it is out of this world. It's got a roof scoop, which you already got my vote, or roof snorkel, whatever you want to call it. Shark fin on it too to help yaw when you're around corners, so even better. Doubt that I'll be using that in this car. Rear wheel steering. A lot of great things about this car. I tried to rate it the exact I did for the SVJ, which might have been a little too high, so I bumped it down a little bit for you. 80. I gave the SVJ an 86. I give this an 80.
That's not bad because it gives me a good average, which I'll believe, which will kind of work in your favor because to me then that makes the car square. Because I think that this car punches at a much higher level than it really is.
Yeah.
Because it's a $330,000 car.
Minimum.
Well, yeah, you're right. They're going for much higher rates, but the MSRP is in that range. So now you can't even compare this to supercars because the numbers are so high on this thing that you now have to compare it to hypercars. I would park this thing next to a Senna. I'm saying, I don't say that it can beat a Senna. I'm just saying that it can run in the same ballpark with a Senna. I think that you could put the right driver in both of these cars and they could have a fight on a track.
I mean, I think the fight would just be the Senna's going to be beating the entire time.
No, I think that this could run relatively close to a Senna, and that's saying a big thing because a Senna is a hypercar and this is a supercar. And I think, like I said, that you could park it next to it, especially at the car shows, and draw the same amount of people in.
So what'd you give it for performance rating?
I gave it a 70.
Okay, that's not too bad. I mean, I wouldn't agree with the statement as far as that it's like the Senna at all, or even stand next to it, especially for the price-wise. Maybe it's got a little less butterface than the Senna does, but I still love the Senna. So to me, I think this is more in line with a 765 LT. That's what this is competing against. And to me, even the 765 LT is going to push the limit farther than I think this will.
Yeah.
Just because the twin-turbo V8...
Yeah,
active aero that's
you're
on
right.
there.
Yeah, that's a good range. So
So
what'd you give it for a number? Where are you at?
I actually give it a 70, so not too far
So
off.
right there. So it ends up square.
Yeah.
I'm happy. You're happy.
very
Let's
happy.
give it a toast. Congratulations, Lamborghini. You got a toast. Well, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And you know what they say. If you have an opinion that's different than ours, keep it to yourself.